They say that and use this term called safe space. And I think just the nature of having the word or phrase safe space in itself is flawed, right? Like every space should be a safe space. Whenever we collect and have dialogue and conversation, it should be a space of safety for me to have that conversation with you. But I guess for the sake of argument, in true Gemini fashion, the place I feel the safest at is at home, is at the crib. So the next time you talk about a safe space, when you're engaging with individuals and having conversations, make sure that you are the safe space for individuals. And what we will do in this fresh new installation of Expediting Change at the crib is have safe space conversations. And my very first guest at Expediting Change at the crib is Miss Atasha James. But today, I think CEO James, Atasha James, Atasha Monique James, we're going to put to the side for a little bit. We're going to have a conversation with Mari and Tosh.
I like that.
How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you.
Looking beautiful as ever.
Thank you. Well, and in addition to me leaving every title aside, I'm here primarily as a woman, a Puerto Rican and Black woman who have recently experienced some significant life shifts that I know for the sake of purpose and expediting change. In addition to talking your head off and my mom's and my sisters, I wanted an opportunity to really connect with women at large to just express what's happening with me in service of helping somebody to navigate this a lot better than unfortunately I did.
Yeah, before we deep dive into it and even get into the history of it, tell me what was the urge, the impetus? Like, why did you say, hey, husband, put me on Expediting Change, not in your podcast studio, but at home? Like, what drove you to even want to have this conversation on this topic in this scenario sitting here on our couch?
So, for the audience, the topic that we're talking about is all the kind of menopauses, perimenopause, menopause, but really the hormone shift that took me over a cliff. And the reason I wanted to talk about it was because, well, is because by all records, I am in elite health. I can still run a sub 10 mile. I can endure Bikram yoga 3 or 4 times a week and heavy weightlifting. All of my labs for years have come back relatively normal. And I go to my providers. I eat a very diligent diet that supports me. And so, by all measures, I am like picture perfectly healthy. And yet, and still, I didn't hit a crack. I didn't hit a speed bump. I fell off a cliff one day.
Mm. So, is that your reasoning for wanting to have this conversation about the mini menopauses at the crib as opposed to in a studio warehouse to make the guests feel more comfortable and draw them into the conversation? Or was it purely about you just wanted to be at home?
No, I feel like this topic is so near and dear and personal for me. The information that I'm going to be sharing and talking about, I would, I feel most comfortable talking about that with you at home.
For sure. So, you ready to dive into it?
Sure.
Let's start with the history. So, you said you were picture perfect health or our picture perfect health. And then one day you felt like you just went off a cliff. So, before you go off of that cliff, where were you right before you stepped off of that cliff? How did you feel? What was going on spiritually, physically, mentally? And then lead me to that cliff.
Sure. Um, so I'm a business owner and I have a lot of stressors with such. I'm a mom of two adult children, but rewinding, the transition from graduated from high school and all these things, I honestly just thought what I was experiencing would be attributable to just stress.
Mm.
And so I pushed through. Um,
Let's push through me.
so, oh, I'm not sleeping so well. It's probably stress. So I take some valerian tea. Oh, I feel like I'm anxious. So I'm taking magnesium glycine to help me relax at night.
Hmm.
And the doctor's like, oh, that comes with the, terrain of living a busy lifestyle. And so I push through a lot of I work out a lot. So increasing like recovery time, being extra sore, I just thought it was normal or par for the course.
Hmm.
And those weren't things that, when you dramatize or you go idealize like what perimenopause or menopause looks like, the mental model for me, honestly, and don't dog me, ladies, for this, was like, was I getting a mustache? Was hair coming on my chin? Was I having additional rage? I don't, you may want to weigh on this. I don't know.
Additional.
Because they're like, you have like these, I mean, again, I'm Puerto Rican and black. I don't know how much more spicy I was in comparison or not. Um, I don't have hot flashes. Never, nothing like traditionally where, women are talking about, oh, my, sex drive decrease. Nothing, none of that happened to me.
Hmm.
None of it. So I wasn't looking that way.
Hmm.
And not to say that I was impervious to the fact or the idea that it could or would happen, but none of that happened.
So then, if none of that was happening, what led you to it being the M word, it being menopause?
Well, it didn't, nothing like decisively put me on this path. It was literally,
Put you on what path?
so I've become like the CIA, FBI, Nancy Drew on every piece of understanding my physiology, my human biology. Because thinking about what was occurring to me in silos and speaking just to my GYN or just speaking to my primary, that'll leave you again falling over the cliff and not being prepared, but having to figure it out in real time while you're literally declining to nowhere.
Describe why. Why? If I go to my GYN, I should get answers, right?
Well, doctors today, in my experience, they look at symptoms and they look at their own lane. So you have specialty doctors and they don't collaborate and communicate. Some of the portals do share labs or, your history, like some of the providers do, but them taking the time to analyze me to see how, if at all, what's happening on their end is impacting me in life in general.
Yeah.
So there's no steady guidepost for it, So your GYN will remind you, for example, every year you should get your mammogram. That is indoctrinated.
Hmm.
This case is a lot different because what I know now is that estrogen impacts almost every part of a woman's physiology.
So before you go into that, I just want to clarify for the audience, and I'll say a statement and then let me know if that statement is accurate. You're saying that you did have or do have healthcare professionals, but those healthcare professionals, they operate in silos, and there is no single architect of your health. There's no health architecture for you that puts those individualized specialties all into one pot to have the conversation around what your total health looks like.
That's right. And I'm not a lab. My body's a system, and those labs speak to how my overall body is functioning. And looking for symptoms, in my case, that was a no go. I didn't have any symptoms to look at. So if I didn't pause and drive my providers to activate my agency,
Mhm.
I certainly would not have the clarity that I'm sitting here talking to you with today.
Pull on that thread. So, besides the fact that you want to be healthy and identify what is going on, what gave you the will for that agency, right? Because there's will and there's skill. You had the will, but technically they have the skill as medical care providers. So, what gave you the level of confidence to exert your agency?
Well, I am the daughter of a nurse who served 30 years in infant and maternal care.
Mhm.
I come from a family who has always been forward leaning in terms of homeopathic approaches to it. If you remember when we had the children, the day I went into labor, I took black cohosh and blue cohosh.
Mhm.
I expedited my contractions by taking castor oil. So that turning to nature has always been a part of, my lexicon and the way that I've cared for my body. At the point where I'm no longer able to conduct myself and to do the things that keep me at such a high level, there were these whispers.
Mm.
There were whispers that continually just were prompting me and inviting me to be more curious. And I decided at the top of February, actually, and stated with, one of our counselors, um, I said, it's time for me to really, really center in. These whispers are becoming more loud
Mhm.
and they're screaming. And within a few weeks, I took the dive off the cliff.
So I'm feeling some type of way as a woman. What do these whispers mean to me? What do they mean to you? How do I tune in to these voices? Are these my ancestors? Are these my labs? Is this God speaking to me in my dreams or all of the above? What do these whispers mean for you?
Um, mm, it is a collective. I don't know if I'm particularly hard-headed or difficult, so the whispers
She
became
don't know if she's particularly hard headed.
they became louder, but it was for me, the internal whisper saying, "This isn't normal. Like this is more than you just being sore." Um, and I likely would have continued to push through um to talk nice to my body, to validate, no, you're okay, you're okay. And until I had like debilitating pain that was in my neck, back, and shoulders to where I could not move
Yeah.
and I had to just stop altogether, that's honestly when the call to attention was, okay, ma'am, what are you going to do now?
So did you hit the cliff and fall however many meters off of that cliff and then talk again to your medical providers? Or did you get to the cliff, talk to the medical providers, and while you were speaking with them and on the journey with them, fall off that cliff collectively?
I was uh probably at the point where I was slipping and I had a one of my best girlfriends from Buffalo called me and told me about her horrible ordeal. Like she was tearful and she said, "Tosh, look, I know how you are. Do not take any of these things for granted. You need to go to the doctor just next week. I didn't call you for no reason today, but the fact that we landed here, that call came on Saturday. I went to the doctor on Monday and politely said, listen, I don't know what symptoms you might be looking for. I'm not sure about any of these things, but something's not right. I'm unwell and I need you to like draw up every single lab to help me discover this because I'm stuck right now." And I got my labs and the two young ladies who were in the phlebotomy department. I came in and they said I was shaken up after, finally downloading every single piece of what I had been experiencing to my doctor because even I was thinking about my body in systems. And I said, wait, my extremities being cold, my hair being dry, my skin being dry, my voice being hoarse and raspy. She said, none of that is common, but it certainly likely could be hormonal in nature. So I'm gonna run everything for you. And thank God, though, I know some of my girlfriends who go to providers, they don't do that. They only test for common symptoms. So when I get to the phlebotomy lab,
So, wait, I got to cut you off super quick because I want to clarify. Going and getting this full range of labs, was this your primary? So, how did you get to actually getting all of these labs? Because it is often stated, I have a wife, I have a daughter, I have a mother, I have an auntie, that when you all go to the doctor, you don't get what you ask for. So, if this was not your primary doctor, how did you even get to that point? Because sometimes they're roadblocked right there.
Yeah. So thankfully, I see midwives who appreciate a blend of East meets West and really putting you as a patient in the driver's seat as much as possible. And so she was open to that discovery and felt the urgency of my, request. And we started on the journey from there.
And what was your request? What was that request?
I asked her, I said, run every single lab that could provide me any like root cause explanation for all of these random symptoms that I'm experiencing, please.
Yeah.
Um, and so as I was talking to her, I said, wait a minute, what happens if I asked her proactively, just in jest, like, what could happen if I don't have levels that she said, well, Atasha, I don't want to like super scare you. She said, but so I had a point where my hair went really dry. I had to cut off like half of the length of my hair. And she said, so have you've been experiencing your hair get dry, your skin get dry, your lips get dry? She said, you're down there would get dry. I said, oh my God, call security. We about to have a problem. I said, because oh no. So
Call security.
I said, it's going to be a problem. We need to get on top of this because you mean to tell me I can't exercise? I'm gonna be sore. I done potentially bald headed. I done got chapstick everywhere, and down there it's not gonna work. That's a no go. So when I go to the laboratory, the two young women in there, I said, "Ladies, we are on a very, very, very important mission because my coochie might stop working, and we need to get to the bottom of this." When I tell you, just the relationships there, I got my blood work that afternoon 'cause they do it in-house,
Hmm.
and I have to tell you, I brought my notes so that I could be accurate because also part of this whole ordeal is you forget mid-sentence sometimes what exactly you're thinking, and you have to go back to it. So, I always keep a notebook, you know that, but in 2024, my estradiol, or what we call estrogen, was at 145.
Hmm.
My labs last month showed that they were 27.5.
Mm,
That's an 80% reduction.
absolutely.
And I'm just walking around the streets just on its own.
And you believe, and your doctors have suggested that that has been attributed to what symptoms? What am I looking for based off of what's happening in my body and the things that I am forgetting or hot flashes? What were you exhibiting that got you to look into that?
I had no symptoms, no traditional symptoms. It was me asking,
Well, you had no traditional symptoms, but you just said that you were forgetting things. So,
right.
talk about some of those things that were bothering you that led you to dig further.
Honestly, Shamari, those things for me, I didn't know that those were even symptoms. I thought that was just me getting old or me being busy
Yeah.
and forgetful. I did not attribute that in any way, shape, or form. The doctor, my midwife,
Mm-hmm.
when I told her, I said, my fingers shrivel up and they're cold to the touch.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, huh. She said, that's not entirely normal.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it could be attributed to a hormone decline. So she also ran a full blood panel on me to see because she did take the time to explain to me that your liver and estrogen, they go hand in hand, and like your blood count and whatever that is, they all work in synergy together. So she doing my blood, oh my God, that led down a whole nother rabbit hole. So now I went from just visiting my midwives, the GYN. My blood came back and showed that I had a high iron saturation and my ferritin was elevated,
Mm-hmm.
which could partially explain my cold extremities.
Mm-hmm.
But when I began to do research and overlay the correlation between my estrogen being high and my iron being regulated, I was well.
Yeah.
As my estrogen declined and my body began to not circulate iron and hold on to it,
Mm-hmm.
it was that breaking point. And I'm not sure what those levels were, but it absolutely um, sidelined me. That's what I describe as falling off the cliff,
Mm-hmm.
where I was not able to. I ran the other day and it's taken me 2 days to recover.
Mm.
I wore heels and I walked around. It's taken me a day to recover.
Mm-hmm.
That's not normal. My heart rate, my resting heart rate is elevated. So as somebody who is pretty athletic, my normal resting heart rate is about 60 to 70.
Beats per minute.
Right now, my elevated heart rate is anywhere between 72 and 82, and that's while I'm asleep.
So let's pull on that thread and let's just tease out for a little bit of clarity and to be able to assess it and let the listeners hear it. What are some of those things that you're mentioning that took place that now you see or are taking place that are making a negative impact? Like just like name them without describing them right out of the gate, right? Like just rattle them off as if you were giving them as a list. Your resting heart rate, you're not recovering. Rattle some of those off for me.
Dry skin, dry and brittle hair, um, shoulders achy, hips super achy, being forgetful more than normal, being extremely cold, like where you shrivel up like you're in a freezer. And I've touched you and you're just like, oh my God, cold to the touch. Um, this feeling in my neck and my back, that some women call like frozen shoulder.
Mm.
Mine uh, was, it's like a feeling that travels through your body depending on the day. Um, and not being able to relax and calm down enough at night. I have to start a bedtime routine in order to show any sort of recovery by about 7:30,
Mhm.
to even get myself to a place where you can have a restful and sleep that helps you to repair and recover.
So a key then, because any or all of those items in isolation could be technically attributed to something that is not necessarily that bad, right? So I go to my doctor and I say, hey, I'm sore on Friday, but I worked out on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. They're going to say, hey, just relax a little bit,
Hmm.
right? So I'm cold and you may say, hey, turn the heat up a little bit. So you're once again, and I'm really pulling on this foundational architectural plan because you've used the word systems a lot. So in order for you to be able to functionally get from these individualized symptoms and things that are happening, you have to have some type of agency to consider the architecture of what is going on in my body with all of these things and how are they impacting me, and then what are they the result of. You use the term root cause, which is a really good term, because why am I having this multitude of symptoms, regardless of how often they're happening, but collectively they're happening and they have to be attributed to something bigger. So that was a lot to give context to as you started to shift and take a look and say, damn, I know I went for a run and I typically recover. And hey, I do Bikram, but I'm not recovering. Hey, I did the dishes and now I'm going down to bed real early. How did you put all of these things together besides Chat GPT? Well, let's not, we, besides AI, we're not going to shout anybody out in particular because we won't have that sponsor. But how did you end up putting these all together from an architectural plan perspective for your health?
Thank you for that. So I'm an educator at heart. And for me, I thought and I asked myself, Atasha, what would make the most sense in terms of how you're going to navigate this? And so what I did was reframe actually and just sideline this whole idea of symptoms
Mm.
and said, my body is sending me across my entire system signals.
No doubt. Signals instead of
Yeah, it
symptoms.
was like my body is sending me signals. How do I honor and pay attention to these signals rather than symptoms? And then for me to activate my providers to say, I only make data driven decisions.
Love it.
And if we're only going on what you attribute as a valid symptom, we're not looking at my whole physiology. We're not
Sure.
looking at my whole system.
For sure.
And that's what I insist on at this point.
Hmm.
And part of me wanting to have this conversation with you was exactly to name that for women, our audience, is that thinking about our body in terms of just systems, that's probably needing to be reframed significantly because your body is one system and it'll send you signals. But as long as we compartmentalize those symptoms, then we're just chasing separate flags when really it's all interconnected.
Agree. So signals over symptoms, and we need to talk about our body as a holistic system.
Hmm.
Um, I know you have a lot of data and I have a lot of questions, but a little selfishly, I want to get into what did that look like in your marriage? Because while you're going through all of these changes in your body, that could be lonely. I can't feel your pain. You can tell me about it, but I can't feel it. I can be sympathetic, but I can't be empathetic. So, talk to me about not just that physical piece, but how are you spiritually and mentally?
Yes. Um, And so again, I've been on a quest now. I talked to people in every shopping store line, like, "Hey, do you get your levels checked? What happened to you? What's going on with you?" Just to better understand and know that I alone am not isolated. There are plenty of women who are experiencing these things, and to commiserate over some of the shared symptoms that they have, um, is a major key for me. Um, I'm thankful for spirit whispering louder to me. So like for example, we went to Morocco, we went to Africa last year. And after coming back from Morocco, we went on our own lifestyle detox where we didn't quite get monastic, but we alone quieted our life. We made huge adjustments to what we consumed in terms of music, TV, food, alcohol, our diet. And so we quieted and slowed down our home. That was no coincidence
Yeah.
because that in and of itself gave me and gave my mind a chance to think and really reflect inward, to even be better prepared to hear any of the signals
Mhm.
that and the whispers that were coming at me. Um, and so, there was a time when, again, I don't know if it is just part of me, we do have our ups and downs and things can be explosive, but when I think about some of the more explosive times, now I'm wondering, damn, like, was I acting out of character because my hormones were depleted?
Mhm.
I don't know. And in hindsight, it feels unfair that I could have treated you poorly, because of how I was feeling, and not even aware of that. Um, and for me, I tend to withdraw, when I'm thinking about or like how I say noodling through things.
Mhm.
And there may have been points where you felt like, oh, is she angry with me? Does she not want to talk to me? But recognizing now that I needed more time to process,
Mhm.
um, and figure out what was going on without being an alarmist. Not thinking doomsday because I tend to scenario plan and go down, okay, if this is this, then this could mean X, Y, or Z. And I go from the most fatal outcome there could be to that. And so protecting myself, to give myself a chance to calm any potential fears that were rising before I even bring it to you. So that might look like, again, I'm withdrawing or I'm being, secretive because I don't want to alarm you or make you more worried about me because I don't know what's going on. And certainly you would, feel obligated as somebody who loves me to want to protect me, and save me from any undue harm in that, and it makes things a little sticky, you know?
So, what would you say to someone listening, or a couple that's listening, for the husband, fiance, partner, boyfriend, significant other, whatever they may be and whatever you may call it? What would you say is the best advice for them to be supportive of the individual going through this cliff and this cliff moment?
Yep. So I think where this is concerned, this is about being a mirror for your partner. And a man, could come home and say, "Hey, wife, X, Y, and Z," and the woman could be ready to bite their head off. He may be feeling like, "Oh, I actually pick up my clothes, for example, from the dry cleaners, and you forgot, like, what's happening here." And so I would say for partners to name that a hormone depletion could lead to a wide array of stuff,
Mm.
and to proactively, plan for it. But to get to it, it's called patience and it's called communication. And women who may not even know that this is on the horizon, when you're going through it, you're in a state of panic, right? You're like, what happened to me like on a Tuesday that has taken me from what I thought was normal to not knowing yourself. So it's reacquainting with yourself while you're in community, with your partner. That's really, really hard.
It is. And pulling on that thread of communication and having those conversations, because it can become a big deal based off someone else feeling some type of way intrinsically because they cannot feel what you are feeling. So, how were you able to successfully get from communication to comprehension? Because as we talk about all the time in our conversations and community agreements, is communication is the first step. Like, we can communicate with each other all day, but that does not mean we have comprehended what each of us are trying to say, because you need to understand what I am trying to say as I intended to say it, as opposed to how you interpret it. So, going through this cliff, how have you been successful at not just communicating, but to ensuring that there is comprehension about what's going on to receive that sympathy?
Well, I guess that would be the moment in this interview where I turn the question back on you. So tell me, like what do you now know that you didn't know before? And I know I have elicited you on this sticker patch thing that I have to do now. So tell me, how have you experienced this?
Yeah, so this is Expediting Change, and I asked the questions, but to give it to the audience, I would say on that thread of communication to comprehension, you are very good at communicating and letting me know all of the things that are happening and taking place. Um, the comprehension piece comes in where you say it on a consistent basis. The difficulty for us is that, not from a negative perspective, but difficulty as in the communication and comprehension is going to death. I got a nosebleed, so therefore I got brain cancer, right? So I think there's opportunity for improvement in that, but we've been together a really long time, and I now know just to ignore it and to continue to have conversations about where we really are. But to answer the question explicitly, for me and for us, be open and honest and transparent about that type of communication, and then ask the question back. I'm a question asker. I'm the interviewer on Expediting Change, as I just said. So if you say something to me, I'm going to ensure that I understand it as you meant it, because I don't want to walk off with something that is the wrong idea of what you meant to say to me. So, to the partners, the husbands, the spouses, the significant others, ensure that there's a level of clear understanding of what your partner is trying to communicate to you, and even oftentimes write it down in the term that we use, community agreement, right? So if there was something that you forgot, and I felt some type of way about you forgetting that. It is not, or even better, what's the saying that they say in church, or they say quite often in the culture? Charge it to my head and not my heart. So you have to genuinely be in a space where you're understanding of your partner, your significant other, your spouse, to charge it to their head and not to their heart. So you done flipped it on me to make me talk, but really, I think the key is just a level of understanding and knowing that there's going to be tough topics, but tough topics don't have to be tough conversations.
Yes, I absolutely agree with that. And just by my training, that's something that has served me well to think about scenarios in the worst case. So, for example, when this blood panel came back irregular, I did become a walking encyclopedia on these topics so that I could go in with the providers prepared and also ask them to honor my voice as the CEO of my body
For sure.
and to honor the fact that their knowledge base is still honored. However, the invitation to invite the support of AI into these conversations is a thing at this point. Even medical providers have their own medical AI. And so the doctors that are a little bit more prickly about this, for me, they might not be a good fit because I'm going to ask for the space for my conversation to be recorded and ask them to take notes on it. So, in particular, I asked the doctor, what is the worst case scenario for me, and what would be the cure or the treatment with my blood having high iron saturation? To which the response was, well, we don't want to like think about that now. We don't want to get there. And I said, it's important for me to know that at the beginning so that I can begin to backwards map what that means for my body today. In that conversation, even her light bulb went off because it came to the fact that, so going back to word etymology in this context of menopause, it means the stopping of your cycle.
Yeah.
Well, I've had a partial hysterectomy and I've kept my ovaries. So my period has ceased 5 or 6 years ago. One of the benefits to menstruation is that you release blood every month,
Hmm.
and that will sometimes naturally alleviate any buildup of iron in your body.
Or anything else.
Yeah, who knew that? But while having iron sounds like it could make you strong, it could also lead to organ failure, with the condition called like hemochromatosis. And a way that you would get through that is to donate your blood.
Hmm.
What that also opened up for me was understanding my blood type, how I could be a blessing to the world by donating blood while also, until and when they figure this out, releases for me any undue stress about my potential organs failing because of this condition. And so, if I wouldn't have dug in and probed, it would be, oh, well, I just have high iron saturation. What this compelled me to do was go pull all of my labs from every doctor and provider to see if this was something in my record that I just missed before, that the doctors didn't pay attention to. And in fact, it was. This wasn't the first time my body had high iron saturation.
So go and pull all this information and do research. I know that you're pro AI.
Mhm.
So what gives you the confidence and the trust in giving an AI your very personal information is one question. And then the second question is, how do you trust that the information that it's giving back to you is accurate?
Ooh, thank you for this question.
You're welcome.
So,
It's gonna sound like we set it up.
no, what gets me going are questions like this. For a long time, enslaved women were used as test subjects in studies around all things health related, including gynecological matters. Only 33 years ago, were women of color mandated to be in any studies relative to overall health.
For sure. Shout out to my guy, Dr. Joe. He said that on Expediting Change first season.
33 years is 2 days. That's just yesterday. So for me, I am happy to share all my information with AI, the Washington Post, or whoever, so that they better understand me as an Afro Latina.
Love that.
So I don't care who they give the information to.
Got it.
Because if up until yesterday, these studies and research have only been centered on white women, where really does that leave me?
No doubt.
When you couple it with the fact that I wrote these statistics down so that Black women in the United States are still 3 to 4 times more likely to die from pregnancy related causes than white women, regardless of income or education level. So when we talk about falling over a cliff,
Yeah.
you're lucky to have a parachute. And then you have to think this is not me gaslighting or being hyperbolic. This is a structural and inequity in how people are even prepared to focus on me as a woman of color.
Oh, absolutely.
So I feel obligated, compelled, dare I say, like, give me the opportunity to publish this and make people focus on me.
Yeah, to again shout out my guy Dr. Joe Wright. Systematic racism in medicine is here. We're not complaining about it per se. We're just bringing up the pure facts. It just is what it is, and it's no sense in hiding the facts because if we act like they don't exist, then we can't improve. The first step to continuous improvement is admitting that it's there and then making sure that we make strides around it, through it to be better. But you didn't give me the answer to my next question though, because I'll sum that up, which is you have the confidence because based off the historical context of where we are as a country, yes, I'm Afro Latina. Take all my info and do with it what you want because I want for the greater good as a rising tide raises our ships. Take this information and everybody else hopefully can benefit from it as well. Got it. Check. However, though, oftentimes when I'm using my I literally ask my AI the question, are there any errors in your response? And probably 95% of the time, my AI comes back and tells me that it did have an error in its response. So the question you kind of slightly avoided a little bit is how do you actually trust the information that your AI is giving to you?
Well, I don't trust anything 100%,
No
but the
doubt.
question that you answered warrants a full and honest response from me. And that is simply that I'm a Johnson at heart, right? I come from incredible genes and I've been put on this earth for a mission.
Mhm.
And so my retell of the Bible could sometimes often be controversial or otherwise,
I'm
but
gonna lead you away from that if we go there.
guess I just need to just say this.
Lead you all the way away.
The point, I don't know what book it is, but you can look it up. God has given me tremendous gifts
For sure.
and has the expectation that I'm going to use every gift to fulfill my mission.
Absolutely.
And so for me, when I
As if you bury it, you will perish.
right? So when I think about my values, I value my health, I value my family and my work in that order. And if I don't have my health, everything else will suffer.
Yeah.
But part of those whispers, and I'm smiling because of that, is if I don't keep myself in a place where I can fulfill this mission, the creator is going to be livid with me. And knowing that of all the one of his greatest creations in me is that I'm inquisitive, I'm brilliant, I'm curious, and I'm a force to be reckoned with. And so I will not suffer any fool gladly that would impede on my ability to fulfill my mission. Um, I'm going to be able to run, jump, and still climb mountains, literally, and jump off of falls at my own will with my grandkids. There's nothing that's going to take that away from me as long as I have the agency and the will to do it. I pay my insurance copay, and so they're providers. They're not my Lord and Savior. And so for me to even be put on the path of curiosity that was literally, whispered to me by spirit to tell me in my body today, I'm safe enough and strong enough to deal with any results that come my way.
Absolutely.
So
Now, I love that answer. And I agree. And I think that was beautiful. And I'm not letting you off the hook though. So I'm a listener. What should I do with this information when I upload my weight, my BMI, my body mass, and AI is spitting all of this potentially good and or accurate or not information back at me? What should I do with that information as a researcher? As a researcher, as an architect of my own health.
Yes. And so as a researcher, I triangulate the data, meaning I will ask it, did you check this against um, Puerto Rican women? Did you check this against Black women? I'll even take that information and then I put it into another AI tool to say, this is what this one said. What do you think about this? And then ask for that information to be listed with a bibliography and sources so that I can go run to. And in doing that, it will take you down the road to look at peer reviewed articles and to have it summarize that to say, please look in this and what applies to a person of my disposition.
Yeah.
It requires a lot of patience. It does require for you to become a better asker of questions.
Mhm.
And once you see the information and you sit with it, not for a long time, sometimes it does, then you can come back and say, okay, well, what about this? So once you start going down that pathway, wayfinder signs and markers that will guide you to the next question, they'll naturally emerge. Well, they have for me.
No doubt. And then how do you, because you said triangulate the data, I love that. Then inside of that triangulation of the data, how are your medical care providers within that scope and sequence?
I know I run their nerves so bad. I'm sorry to all of my providers whose nerves I have run on, but here's the deal. Um, there's not a one size fits all hormonal profile. So when they say, oh, your labs are a normal range, normal for who? And so telling them that I don't know who normal is, but she ain't me, at this level, I am not well. I don't care what that says in terms of normal, but when I was in childbearing age, here's what it was. I felt great at that time. What do we need to do to get me here? And they'll often pause and say, so I'm already going in with a set of beliefs that they'll have to redirect me and give me a good reason why they're saying, oh, this is within normal range. I don't give a damn who it's normal for. It ain't normal for me.
And do you show them your AI data?
I'll read it. So I'm here with you with my notebook and that, I'll ask and invite them to allow me to read the notes that I have prepared and say, please push back on this. But based on what I have put together, I need to express this to you. Are you fine with that?
So there's this argument that AI lessens critical thinking, but the way you just described it, you are using AI to strengthen the critical thinking. And in that, you said that your process is that you use a multitude of AI tools that I'll only name by name to help out the listeners. You will pull some information from Chat GPT, as Chat did it, check it against Black and Puerto Rican women, and then take the Chat GPT's information and put it into Claude and see what Claude says about it. Claude will spit something out, and then you'll put it in Perplexity to see Perplexity giving you some citation. So you're actually using these AI tools within this ecosystem of research to critically think about the architecture of your health.
Yes. And to add to that, um, the AI source from Gemini, that's a spicy one.
Okay.
And so asking it for sources and going back to pull facts,
Hmm.
I swear it must be a black team on that because their clapbacks on Gemini,
What's Gemini? Who makes Gemini?
Google.
Oh, Google is Android. What type of phone do
Okay,
you
we're
use?
not doing this right now.
Okay, we talking about menopause. Go
We're
ahead.
not doing
We're
this.
not gonna do this right now. You
But
like Gemini though. You just admitted it on camera.
I do like Gemini because she eats up Claude and Chatty.
It's my girl.
But putting that together to say, okay, now that we have all this information, we've saved all my labs into this to say, okay, give me three different, I love, again, scenario planning. Give me three pathways. I even ask it to tell me if the doctor says no, what to say next.
No doubt.
So give me the soft approach if I want to be collaborative and invitational. Give me the language if I'm like, look, I ain't with the shit today. Here's what it is.
So you're asking your AI to support you with a script going into your doctor. So you're coming into it with your labs that have been not verified, but put through triangulation of multiple AI tools to then give you at least a head start so you're not walking in there blind with the term, them being able to pull the wool over your eyes.
Yes. And even that, still, this will likely be a reoccurring series for us because it's just like you, for example, deciding that you want to start supplements to increase your, longevity.
Yeah,
You say, oh, today I'm going to take vitamin D. And then you go to the market and you're like, it's 811 types of vitamin D.
for sure.
Which vitamin D do I go down?
For sure.
And so while I now know, okay, my hormones are dysregulated, I'm in recovery mode. How do we recover them?
Mm,
I like, what do we do? I'm not
absolutely.
sure. So they have like cream options, sticker options, pellet options, injection options, and not everybody offers high quality, personalized treatment plans for what's going on with your body.
Absolutely.
So it's just one thing to even okay, no, we need to do proactive early testing
Hmm.
because at some point you are going to hit a cliff. Next, what do we do now once we're on that path to help you navigate? And what guidance are you using to get you to a place where you're in optimal health headed for longevity?
So let me shout out my guy Drew from Kennevitt and Dr. Chaku, who runs my Expediting Change life. Without them too, this podcast does not happen. But I have to say, did y'all hear? She said she tried to sneak it in. Something along the lines of, you can go back and rewind it a little bit. We're going to have to do another one. This going to have to continue. We're going to have another conversation. Did you see how she just started putting more episodes in on it? But before we get to the end, and you're welcome to sit on our couch and have this conversation, but I also want to make sure that you leave the listeners, the viewers, with a snippet of where you are and what are your next steps.
Okay, so where I am right now today, my estradiol is 27.5,
Mhm.
and my goal, well, currently today, my estradiol is 27.5. My goal is to at least get to 80 to 100.
Mhm.
My progesterone was 0.03. I know it was almost all the way gone. And since August, it's increased to 1.1. My goal is to get to 10 on the progesterone. I'm not exactly concerned with testosterone at this point. So that is one. Two, where do I want to go? Now that I've been tinkering around with some of the cures or remedies for this, um, there has to be a better way. There has to be better drugs. There has to be a better way for you to fix it and forget it. I'm not doing very well with Tuesday, Thursday sticker changes. I am not up for cream in my downtown area, period. That's not going to work. So now this means that the midwives, they don't offer that treatment. So what this means now is that I have to figure out now on the finance side of the house how to increase our HSA or FSA because now I'm going to go to and find and seek out a menopause institute that will offer me more fixed and permanent solutions for adherence. And so starting and stopping medication is not going to lead me to a path of longevity. And so hopefully when we meet again, I'll have found a more permanent solution to move this sticker life to the side. We'll have a better support around the goals that we're aspiring to, which will include if my blood draws were just done in March, April, May, June, we're going to have them now, my blood work taken every 3 months so that we can very, very closely monitor how my body is responding to the treatments and then aggressively move to increase so that we can get back to a point where my body is in a very regulated state as soon as possible.
Absolutely. Tosh, this has been a great discussion. I appreciate your transparency, your vulnerability, your courage to actually get on camera in your home and say these things. That should be absolutely applauded. I've witnessed and watched you talk to groups of women, even as recently as going to my gym 15-year party, and all huddled and literally was having your own menopause conversation party. So that tells you right there that this is a big deal. And there should no longer be places of taboo when it comes to spiritual, mental, physical, and financial health, Black people, the culture, BIPOC, whatever term you want to use, we have to speak out, talk to one another, connect, collaborate, and share the practices, the best practices, and the things that we are doing to ensure that our spiritual, mental, and physical health is in tip top shape. I didn't intentionally leave out financial education and financial wellness, but those are the top three: spiritual, mental, and physical. Because if we take care of those three, the financial wellness will come right along with the other three. So I encourage you, I implore you, if you don't believe in anything, find something to believe in that's higher than yourself. If you are not speaking to someone about your mental health, a therapist, a counselor, a coach, or something, I implore you to get one. If you're not in the gym, swimming, walking, biking, Peloton, something, I encourage you to make sure that you stay active. And with that financial wellness piece, well, you can just call me, ShomariJames.com. I'll take care of that piece. But this has been Expediting Change. I want all your feedback. Expediting Change at the crib. Thank you again to my guests.
Well, you didn't ask me the one key question that you ask all your guests.
Ooh,
So,
she gonna pull up the Expediting Change piece. What are you doing to expedite change? So, even though I did a fire wrap up, we gonna go all the way back, and we are not Drew. We are not editing it. We're gonna leave it this as is, and I'm gonna ask Atasha James Johnson at heart, at spirit, but Atasha James, what are you doing to expedite change?
thank you for asking. My hope and prayer is that from this conversation, any woman in their 30s goes to the doctor to ask for a test, even if you have no symptoms. Then make a game plan of how you're going to monitor all of your labs. Ask for your whole estrogen, your liver, your blood profile to be run so that you can start tracking this today. Tell them your auntie, your sister, Tasha, said you needed to have it. I've even had friends now call me when they're in the doctor to say, do you want this lady talking to you while we're in the doctor? If your doctor says, for example, they're only treating symptoms, get a new doctor. It's both and. It is not just putting your symptoms against what your blood work says. It has to be both, or else you're going to be stuck. And then from there, begin to map out how you're going to manage this to be able to navigate with a plan and guidance. And that's what I'm doing to expedite change today.
I love that. Absolutely love that. And in how we started, this is a safe space. This is the safe space. This is expediting change at the crib. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.